intelligence.
Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 2 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the gentlelady from California for your leadership on this issue. I rise in strong opposition to H.R. 3633, the so-called Clarity Act. I believe this misguided legislation will have devastating impacts on our financial stability, national security, and investor protections. While my Republican friends claim that this bill will regulate the crypto market structure, in reality, it eviscerates the longstanding history of investor protections that have made our markets the envy of the world. Most importantly, this push for crypto will not end well for the U.S. taxpayer. This bill will lead to the next financial crisis, and the largest crypto donors who wrote this bill will walk away unharmed, because the worst aspect of this bill is that Republicans have repeatedly refused to include a single amendment preventing a federal taxpayer bailout.
People to become community-minded business leaders through career development and leadership opportunities. Their annual leadership conference brings together over 11,000 students from more than 2,000 schools nationwide to compete in career and leadership building events. Well, in Anaheim, California, Avril placed 6th in public speaking, and Elena placed 7th in career exploration. West Shamokin FBLA chapter, founded in the fall of 2023, has quickly made a name for itself and has proven that a small rural schools can leave a big mark on the national stage. Mr. Speaker, I applaud both Avril and Elena and the entire West Shamokin FBLA team for their leadership, hard work, and bright futures. They make their school, their community, their Commonwealth, and this congressman very proud. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to recognize Pasquotank County Emergency Medical Services for earning the prestigious 2025 Best in Category Award for Health from the National Association of Counties. Out of 157 entries, Pasquotank County EMS was recognized as one of the best health programs in the country and the only winner from North Carolina. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Pasquotank County EMS, like many counties, faced a serious shortage of paramedics and emergency safety workers. In response, they developed an innovative tiered response system, allowing ambulances to quickly respond to emergencies while paramedics provide essential support when needed, improving their service, making it faster and more efficient. Pasquotank County EMS is a shining example of hard work, innovation, and dedication. Congratulations to each and every one on this remarkable honor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from East Texas seek recognition?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House floor for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the Love Thy City event held in Tyler, Texas, a community-wide initiative that reminds us that service to our neighbors does not start in Washington, D.C. It starts in the heart and in the home, and it extends to every corner of this earth. Organized by local citizen leaders, churches, nonprofits, and volunteers of all ages, Love Thy City is a day of service to others rooted in the great command to love our neighbors. That's a principle that transcends politics and parties. It transcends race and gender and every other perceived difference between us. It is our shared responsibility to care for everyone around us, just as the Good Samaritan did, not because government would tell us to, but because the love of Christ propels us to. Whether it's cleaning up a park, helping a neighbor in need, or simply showing kindness to a stranger, Love Thy City challenges us to use our act of faith to lead by example and invest in our communities, not just with words, but with action. This is what makes East Texas strong: faith, service, and a deep love for God and for others. I'm proud to honor this effort today and to recognize all those who give their time to love their neighbor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our children are under attack. $6.8 billion in education funding, dollars appropriated by Democrats and Republicans. It's frozen. funds that should have been available July the 1st. In Pennsylvania, that's $230 million. Resources, including summer programs and teacher training, hang in limbo. Abington School District, my alma mater, is missing more than $250,000. Some schools may be able to function while the president's latest whims play out in court. But as is the case with most of his orders, Trump has stolen the most from those who have the least. Norristown School District, just 15 miles from my district of Abington, is owed 3 times as much, more than $750,000 in federal funds. This is not about government efficiency. It is about greed, incompetence, and cruelty. When Secretary McMahon testified before the Appropriations Committee, I asked her, "Why are you in this job?" Her response, "I want the best for my family." Not all families, her family. When Republicans tell us who they are, Mr. Speaker, we should believe them. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Kansas seek recognition?
I rise to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, in honor of the nation's 249th birthday, House Republicans delivered the largest tax cut in our nation's history for middle and working class families, strengthened the farm safety net, and voted to get our country back on track. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act gave a lifeline to the agriculture community by updating reference prices, expanding crop insurance, and saving millions of family farms from the death tax. The relief was long overdue, and we're grateful, but the work doesn't stop there. It is past time for Congress to pass a fiscally conservative 5-year farm bill, including support for agriculture research and development. We've seen the devastating impact disease outbreaks can have with the HPAI virus, and now we must continue to take steps to prevent the new world screwworm from reaching our borders. The Big First District is home to crown jewels of the animal health corridor, where world-renowned research happens, positioning the United States to focus on disease prevention rather than outbreak control after the fact. By investing in agriculture research, we strengthen our food supply chain and, in turn, our national security, all while providing the best and most effective return on taxpayer dollars. We cannot afford to put our food security at risk by not prioritizing adequate investments in animal health research when we pass the next iteration of the Farm Bill, and I would urge this body to get this right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Michigan seek recognition? The gentlewoman is recognized.
The Israeli government has deliberately blocked food, medicine, and fuel from entering Gaza. The entire population of Gaza is experiencing famine, and 500,000 Palestinians are facing catastrophic levels of starvation. At least 66 Palestinian children have already been starved to death. Maybe if my colleagues would close their eyes or pretend that they're not Palestinians, that they would care that Palestinians have been forced to eat grass, human beings, animal feed, while thousands of trucks carrying food sit blocked at the border. The Israeli government is using starvation as a weapon of war. Now the Israeli forces are deliberately shooting and killing starving Palestinians lined up for food, and the responses by the Israeli government doesn't add up. 875 murdered in 6 weeks alone. The so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, backed by the Israeli government and the Trump administration, is a deadly sham. The United Nations calls it a death trap. The Israeli soldiers have even admitted it themselves that they were ordered to deliberately shoot unarmed Palestinians, many of them children, calling it a killing
Gentlewoman's time has
field.
expired.
This is not a game, Mr. Speaker. These are human beings. And if colleagues need to close their eyes again and pretend they're not Palestinians to care, then maybe they should, and we would stop this madness and stop supporting the genocide in Gaza.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas seek recognition?
Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to shed light on the broken permitting process, which creates roadblocks to unleashing American innovation and development while costing more taxpayer dollars with basically nothing to show for the expenses. The Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023 attempted to change course and imposed a 2-year deadline and 150-page cap on environmental impact statements. However, the Council on Environmental Quality reports that 61% of environmental impact statements still take over 2 years to complete. The other two branches of government are taking actions to inject some regulatory common sense into the process. President Trump's Unleashing American Energy executive order directs federal agencies to confine NEPA analysis to applicable law. And in May, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously on narrowing the scope of NEPA. It's time for Congress to take a bipartisan, bicameral action to fix the broken permitting and regulatory laws so that America can thrive. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the letter from the AFL-CIO and to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Today is so-called the culmination of crypto week. The AFL-CIO has sent a letter to every member saying that these bills are an attack on working families and they will score your vote on these issues. Vote no on both bills. This is what Trump had to say about crypto before he learned he could make money from it. The bills we have allow the president and the vice president to sponsor cryptos. That means they can print their electronic monopoly money. China is buying 300 billion, Abu Dhabi 300 million, and Abu Dhabi has agreed to buy $2 billion of Trump coin or Trump stable coin. It allows for bailouts by the Fed. Jay Powell won't bail out Trump coin, but the next Fed chair will. It allows for the purchase with your U.S. tax dollars of Bitcoin or Trump coin. And the third bill says innovation is wonderful, except if the U.S. government does it. Vote no on all three bills.
Expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Alabama seek recognition?
That's unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today here on the House floor of the United States House of Representatives to recognize an extraordinary American and a dear personal friend, Mr. Roy Drinkard of Coleman, Alabama, who just celebrated his 105th birthday this past weekend on July the 12th. Born in 1920, Mr. Drinkard is a proud veteran of the Second World War and who served his country with courage and continue to inspire all those who know him. And he is the oldest living Marine in the United States of America. After the war, he returned to Alabama and built a legacy as a successful businessman, civic leader, and helped shape the growth and character of Coleman, Alabama, as well as the state. At the age of 105, Mr. Drinkard remains active in his business. He still serves on the Board of Trustees at Troy University, demonstrating that age is no barrier to leadership, to commitment, or to purpose. Mr. Speaker, Roy Drinkard is a living example of American grit and grace, and my wife Caroline and I are proud to call him our friend. I ask my colleagues to join me in wishing Mr. Drinkard a very happy 105th birthday and in thanking him for a lifetime of service to his community and to his nation. May God bless Roy Drinkard and his family, and may God bless the United States of America. I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute or to revise and extend my remarks.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor Luna Higby, the daughter of my friend Brian, back in Westchester County, New York. Luna is a delightful 6-year-old girl, but she has already endured bullying simply for looking different. Luna wears an eye patch and glasses to treat her amblyopia. Mistreatment by a few peers has made Luna want to reject her treatment. Disney Pixar has recently released the movie Ilio, about a boy who is wrestling with his insecurity and a longing to belong. Representation matters.
Research shows that seeing someone in the media who mirrors your experiences boosts self-esteem, supports identity formation, and reduces stigma. Imagine how it might feel for Luna seeing a character who wears an eye patch, someone like her. Isn't that more likely to help keep her and her patch to feel proud, to feel seen? As someone who grew up with strabismus and experienced teasing firsthand, I know how much it can hurt. We must teach our children that differences are not deficits, but paths to empathy and connection. Mr. Speaker, I invite my colleagues to join me in sending Luna a message of inclusion. You belong, you're valued, and you matter to America. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the member from Arkansas, Mr. Hill, seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, good morning. Pursuant to House Resolution 580, I call up the bill H.R. 3633 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar number 134, H.R. 3633, a bill to provide for a system of regulation of offer and sale of digital commodities by the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission and for other purposes.
Pursuant to House Resolution 580, in lieu of the amendments in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Committees on Agriculture and Financial Services printed in the bill, an amendment in the nature of a substitute consisting of the text of Rules Committee Print 119-6, modified by the amendment printed in Part B of House Report 119 through 199, is adopted, and the bill as amended is considered read. The bill shall be debatable for 1 hour, equally divided among and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Agriculture or their respective designees, and the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Financial Services or their respective designees. After 1 hour of debate, it shall be in order to consider the further amendment printed in Part C of House Report 119 through 199, if offered by the member designated in the report, which shall be considered read. Shall be separately debatable for the time specified in the report, equally divided and controlled by the proponent and an opponent, and shall not be subject to a demand for a division of the question. The gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Thompson, the gentlewoman from Minnesota, Ms. Craig, the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Hill, and the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Waters, each will control 15 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arkansas.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material in this bill in the record.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
I rise in strong support this morning of the Clarity Act. We've been here before, Mr. Speaker. Just last year, we passed landmark legislation, Fit 21, with an overwhelming bipartisan majority to apply strong federal standards to digital asset markets. For more than 5 years, our committee has heard from dozens and dozens of experts, held numerous roundtables and hearings with market participants of all sizes in all segments of the market to learn more about the emerging digital asset ecosystem. We learned about the value proposition and relevant risks associated with digital assets and the use of blockchain technology. We've heard time and time again from market participants and regulators about the need for clear regulatory guardrails. We've talked about the need to fill those regulatory gaps that have left millions participating in crypto markets vulnerable. In fact, Mr. Speaker, both President Biden in his executive order 14067 and President Trump in his executive order 14178 identified those market regulatory gaps, asking Congress to act to fill those gaps. And we certainly witnessed in 2022 consumer harm when the Financial Services Committee heard unprecedented testimony from an expert called in to clean up the failed digital asset crypto firm FTX and the mess it left behind. In his words, never had he seen such an utter failure in corporate controls. In its wake, then Chairwoman Waters wisely stated, "We need legislative action to ensure that digital assets entities cannot operate in the shadows outside of robust federal oversight and clear rules of the road. If we needed action then, we certainly need it now, and we risk history repeating itself, and that's why we gather today on the House floor. After years of bipartisan work, numerous iterations, this bill would apply rigorous rules to digital asset firms, prohibiting commingling of customer funds and requiring capital, record keeping, and conflict of interest mitigation standards. Importantly, the bill recognizes that decentralized finance, or DeFi developers, do not take custody of user assets, nor do they control user assets. Therefore, we should not treat them in the same way that we treat centralized actors who do have custody, who do have control over assets. It's important to note that in an Agriculture Committee hearing, the former general counsel of FTX USA himself testified, quote, "Had we the regulatory structure provided for in clarity applied to FTX," close quote, "the story would," and he goes on to say, "would be almost certainly have been a much different ending." Let's ensure that we learn from the past, Mr. Speaker. The digital asset ecosystem is evolving at a remarkable pace, enabling real-time settlement of peer-to-peer transactions, initiating a renaissance in applied cryptography, laying the groundwork for the next generation of the use of the internet. The United States has long had the most innovative financial and technology sectors and the deepest, most liquid capital markets. But while other jurisdictions are building frameworks for the future of finance to be on-chain and digitally native, our great country, with those great characteristics, is lagging. For too long, our digital asset regime has been the worst of both worlds. Regulation by enforcement, which has pushed good actors to leave the United States, and the regulatory gaps that I talked about, identified in both President Biden and President Trump's executive orders, that have left consumers unprotected from the bad actors. Now, today, we have an opportunity to reverse course and establish the United States as the global hub for digital innovation. To do so, we must close the regulatory gaps with common sense rules. The Clarity Act does just that. By leveraging the expertise of our two market regulators, the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Commodity Future Trading Commission, to ensure wrap-around oversight of digital asset markets from initial sales, raising capital, to daily trading, it provides clarity for banks also engaging in this ecosystem. And as we said in the last Congress, Mr. Speaker, these rules need to be fit for purpose for the digital ecosystem. Now, all of us on this House floor know that the status quo is simply unacceptable. We all know American consumers and innovators deserve this clarity, deserve better, deserve rules of the road. The choice before us is whether to lead in the financial markets of the future or watch the next FTX fail while we're left saying, once again, well, we've been here before. I urge all my colleagues to join me on both sides of the aisle and support the Clarity Act. Let's fill these regulatory gaps with the proper federal oversight. Let's create a competitive digital ecosystem. I support this bill. I urge my colleagues to, and I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. The gentlewoman from California is recognized.
Mr. Chair, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
Crypto Week has been going so well, hasn't it? Mr. Speaker, that's because bailing out billionaires is hard work. I look how hard the Republicans worked to strip health care from 17 million Americans, shutter rural hospitals, and take food assistance from 12 million people, just to hand the richest 1% of Americans a tax break they don't need. No one should be surprised that the Republicans' next order of business is a $1 billion handout to the president himself. In just 6 months, President Trump has enriched himself and his family to the tune of $1.2 billion, and that's just the beginning. President Trump used to call crypto a scam in 2021. Trump said, and I quote, "Bitcoin, it just seems like a scam. I don't like it because it's another currency competing against the dollar," end quote. Melania was actually first to get involved in the crypto ecosystem. In January 2022, she announced an auction of her non-fungible token, or NFT, collection. Trump then followed suit in December 2022, launching his own NFT collection, ditching his concerns about crypto because he saw it as a way to pad his pockets. Now, during the campaign trail, Trump ramped up his crypto involvement. In September 2024, he and his family launched World Liberty Financial, a crypto trading platform. So days before the inauguration, Trump launched his meme coin, which he later used to offer access to the White House to the highest bidder, foreign or domestic. But his family's crypto empire hasn't stopped there. World Liberty Financial launched a stablecoin called USD1. And shortly after that, the Abu Dhabi-backed investment firm MDX bought $2 billion worth of Trump's coin to make an investment in Binance. Trump's family has also launched a Bitcoin mining operation and multiple crypto exchange traded funds, or ETFs. All of this comes at the same time that the Trump administration has taken away the independence of the financial regulators like the Securities and Exchange Commission. He issued Executive Order 14255, which now requires all rules written by the financial regulators to be reviewed and approved by, guess what? The White House Budget Office. This means this bill would hand over to the president the ability to write the rules he wants to advance his crypto operations. Not only that, but under the Trump administration, the SEC has said that meme coins, stable coins, and Bitcoins mining all do not fall under their oversight. Can you imagine that? Do these assets sound familiar? Oh, yes, they do, because these are all ventures that Trump and his family are pursuing. Now, with no oversight by Wall Street's comp on the beat, that is the SEC. Surely, each of you can see how this is a blatant conflict of interest, right? Well, Democrats do. It's why I introduced the Stop Trump and Crypto Act to ban the president, vice president, and all the members of Congress from crypto corruption. If we do not ban elected officials, including the president or vice president, from this crypto corruption in HR 3633, each of us will be complicit. And yet, even if we included language to stop the crypto con, this bill, which should be called the Calamity Act, is bad public policy. Plain and simple, the bill would lead to increased investor harm, plant the seeds for the next financial crisis, and endanger our national security. Just last week, the former chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission warned that this bill would allow traditional companies like Apple or Google to evade securities laws. They could walk away from the disclosure, anti-fraud, liability, and corporate governance protections that investors have relied on for 90 years. And the bill blocks our state regulators from protecting seniors against fraud in crypto. Additionally, the Calamity Act does not address illicit finance and other crimes commonly seen in the crypto space. It does not provide nearly enough direction to agencies, which would be required to match the level of financial crimes and non-compliance seen in the industry. Nor does it provide sufficient funds for federal agencies to examine and enforce these laws. For all of these reasons, I strongly, strongly oppose this bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman reserves. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to include in the record the CBO estimate for this bill.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I want to yield 2 minutes to an essential leader in our committee, the chairman of our committee that handles financial technology, digital assets, and artificial intelligence. The gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Stahl, recognized for 2 minutes.
Gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank Chairman Hill for all of his hard work on that, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support of the Clarity Act. I think two things are clear. First, the digital asset and blockchain technology are leading the next wave of financial innovation, and we need to make sure that that innovation is occurring here in the United States of America. Second, under the previous administration, the United States failed to enact a regulatory framework that's aligned with the realities of the technology and adequately protects consumers. Today, the House has an opportunity to meaningfully improve the status quo that for too long has been marred by uncertainty and regulatory enforcement. The Clarity Act establishes a workable, forward-looking framework. The Clarity Act provides and ensures the markets operate with transparency, accountability, and strong consumer protections. Today, our laws leave digital asset developers guessing which regulator in what jurisdiction, and what even compliance looks like. It's not bad for business. It's bad for consumers and bad for U.S. competitiveness. Without action, we'll continue to see innovation move overseas to jurisdictions that are providing the legal clarity that we thus far in the United States have failed to deliver. Mr. Speaker, what we want is innovation and developing not occurring in boardrooms and law firms in the United States. We want them occurring in basements and dorm rooms. Ensuring the United States leads the Web3 revolution isn't a partisan issue, it's an American issue. The Clarity Act legislates in a thoughtful way in a rapidly evolving space. The Clarity Act protects consumers and fosters innovation. Today we can lead not by accident, but by design. Let's send a message that America intends to lead in the golden age of digital assets. Mr. Speaker, I support the Clarity Act and encourage my colleagues to vote yes. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentlewoman from California is recognized.
I now yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Lynch, who is also the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Digital Assets, Financial Technology, and Artificial Intelligence.
Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 2 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the gentlelady from California for your leadership on this issue. I rise in strong opposition to H.R. 3633, the so-called Clarity Act. I believe this misguided legislation will have devastating impacts on our financial stability, national security, and investor protections. While my Republican friends claim that this bill will regulate the crypto market structure, in reality, it eviscerates the longstanding history of investor protections that have made our markets the envy of the world. Most importantly, this push for crypto will not end well for the U.S. taxpayer. This bill will lead to the next financial crisis, and the largest crypto donors who wrote this bill will walk away unharmed, because the worst aspect of this bill is that Republicans have repeatedly refused to include a single amendment preventing a federal taxpayer bailout of the crypto industry. That's what this bill does. Additionally, this bill includes zero provisions to prevent the president, who has a $620 million conflict of interest, from continuing his ability to accept emoluments from foreign governments like Abu Dhabi. And I urge my colleagues to vote no and protect the American taxpayer. I yield back.
The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to yield 2 minutes to our majority whip, who has been an absolute essential, early, focused policymaker in the digital asset space. Mr. Emmer of Minnesota for 2 minutes, please.
The gentleman from Minnesota is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The United States stands at the forefront of the next digital renaissance, a transformative shift towards a decentralized peer-to-peer digital economy. For many years, innovators and investors were forced to operate in a legal gray zone while agencies jostled for regulatory superiority over the digital asset ecosystem, leading blockchain developers to pack up and move abroad. The Clarity Act fixes this by creating regulatory guardrails tailored to the unique attributes of blockchain technology while giving users and developers the confidence to engage and innovate in this ecosystem. Gone are the days of arbitrary enforcement actions and regulatory turf wars that only hindered the development of this groundbreaking technology and drove capital overseas. This bill gives market participants the confidence to build, invest, and grow right here in the United States of America. We are proud to have the Securities Clarity Act included in this legislation. This provision provides market certainty for innovators and clear jurisdictional boundaries for regulators. Subsequently, elements of the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act were included, clarifying once and for all that digital asset developers and service providers who do not custody consumer funds are not considered money transmitters. Importantly, the Clarity Act will help further decentralize our financial system so that Americans can forego intermediaries and transact directly with each other. Having this choice will fundamentally transform the digital economy and unlock new opportunities for innovators, investors, and consumers around the globe. I want to thank Chairman Hill and Chairman Thompson for their leadership and for working with us to include our two bills in the Clarity Act. The United States has an opportunity to lead and deliver on President Trump's promise to make America the crypto capital of the world. We cannot and will not fail. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Arkansas reserves. The gentlewoman from California.
I now yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Caston, who is also the vice ranking member of the Financial Services Committee.
The gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, the only thing you need to know about the Clarity Act is that it is designed to destroy U.S. capital markets. U.S. capital markets are the envy of the world because investors like putting their money in them. They are the envy of the world because we provide robust investor protections when people put their money in them, in part through the Securities and Exchange Commission. And yet the Clarity Act would allow companies to raise up to $200 million without any disclosure, without any transparency, just by tokenizing their security. But let's be clear, putting a security on the blockchain doesn't make investors safe. It might make money for the crypto industry. I know you all like that. It might make it possible for the companies to temporarily raise more money from dumb investors because they don't get that protection. But if we stop protecting investors, why would investors put their money in the stock market? They will abandon the U.S. to go to places with a better risk reward. I understand we got a lot of fraud and grift in the White House. I understand you are a big fan of fraud and grift in the White House, but we don't need any more. Let's protect Americans' hard-earned savings. Let's protect markets and not just make crypto bros richer. I urge a resounding hell no, and I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Michigan, the vice chairman of our full committee, Mr. Heisinger, who's been a longtime advocate for reform in the digital markets.
Gentleman from Michigan is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate that. From the chair, the digital asset ecosystem currently operates in a fragmented regulatory environment that lends itself to significant challenges for both businesses and, more importantly, investors. The ambiguity in classifying a digital asset either as a security or as a commodity has led to confusion, legal uncertainty, and ultimately consumer harm. American innovation is a critical element of job creation and economic opportunity here in the United States. Congress must look to preserve this competitive advantage and not let it leave our shores. By passing a comprehensive market structure framework, responsible actors will now have greater certainty and consumers greater protection from bad actors. This bill establishes a regulatory framework for digital assets that aligns with our existing financial markets while accounting for the unique characteristics of digital assets. Mr. Speaker, our markets are the envy of the world. American innovation is a critical element of job creation and economic opportunity here in the United States. Congress must not cede its responsibility. I urge all of my colleagues to support this important legislation and yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Arkansas reserves. The gentlewoman from California is recognized.
I now yield 1 minute and 15 seconds to the gentleman from California, Mr. Sherman, who is also the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Capital Markets.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 1 minute and 15 seconds.
I submitted many amendments to rules, as did other Democrats. They made only one in order. I will not be offering it because in the absence of the other amendments, it's really not useful. This bill is an attack on working families, which is why the AFL-CIO says no, and they are scoring it. This bill prohibits Congress members from sponsoring cryptocurrencies because of the obvious corruption and conflict of interest, but it allows the president to create electronic monopoly money. And who's buying? Abu Dhabi is buying $2 billion of Trump stablecoin, while the Chinese interests behind TikTok are buying $300 billion worth of Trump coin. And that's just what we know about. There's a lot we don't know about because cryptocurrency literally means hidden money. It allows for bailouts under Section 13.3 of the Federal Reserve Act. Jay Powell won't do it, but the next guy will. And Congress won't stop them because crypto spends more in super PACs than any other industry by far, 5 times more than the combination of big oil and big pharma. It allows for the purchase of Bitcoin and Trump coin, and Trump has announced that he's going to do just that with our tax dollars going into his crypto. And finally, this creates the perfect financial tool for drug dealers and for tax evaders.
I yield to the gentleman an additional 15 seconds.
Gentleman is recognized for 15 more seconds.
It creates the perfect financial tool for drug dealers and tax evaders. Because every time a billionaire cheats on his taxes, a member of the Freedom Caucus earns his wings. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Ohio, the chairman of our subcommittee on national security and a longtime policy advocate for reform in our digital markets. Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, Chairman. The ability to move payments or digital tokens that represent other assets person to person without a third party, any intermediary across any space digitally at the speed of light is part of the reason this industry was created. So what do those tokens represent? Either securities, commodities, real world assets. We've needed a bright line test since this market began to decide who regulates them. I introduced the first piece of legislation on this back in 2018 called the Token Taxonomy Act. Think of the harm that could have been prevented if we had that bright line test all this time. And the other essential component is self-custody, the ability to control your own assets. You can't go person to person if you have to go through an intermediary without a permission. So it does that. It does just what we need to do, just like cash. We finally have market structure in place with this bill. I hope the Senate delivers the same structure soon, and we get the certainty the markets need. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Arkansas reserves. The gentlewoman from California is recognized.
I now yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Velasquez, who is also the ranking member of the Small Business Committee.
Gentlewoman from New York is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong opposition to this bill. It is ironic we are debating a bill called the Clarity Act when it offers no clarity on one of the biggest issues in crypto, the blatant conflicts of interest inside our own government. Since returning to office, President Trump has turned the presidency into a crypto cash machine. It is now estimated that crypto makes up the majority of Donald Trump's net worth. Foreign investors, some under federal investigation, are pouring millions into these ventures, buying access influence, and favorable treatment. So I ask, what are we doing here? With this bill, not only are we continuing to allow President Trump to issue his cryptocurrency, we are allowing him and his cronies to be in charge of the regulators overseeing that venture and compromising the stability of capital markets in our
Gentlewoman's
country.
time has expired.
I urge my colleagues to vote no, and I yield back.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentlewoman from California reserves. The gentleman from
Mr.
Arkansas
Speaker, may I
is
inquire how
recognized.
much time I have remaining, please?
Gentleman has 2.5 minutes remaining.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Nebraska, Mr. Flood, the chair of our Housing and Insurance Subcommittee.
The gentleman from Nebraska is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. It's been a longer wait than expected, but I am excited that the Clarity Act has finally made it to the House floor for debate. The Clarity Act is not just about digital assets like Bitcoin. This bill will usher in a new age of blockchain innovation that will go well beyond the tokens that we know well today. Chris Dixon's book, titled Read, Write, Own, talks about a future where blockchain technology enables a new generation of the internet he terms Web 3.0. Technology like NFTs can be used as tickets to events, identity verification tools, and serve other real-world uses that will change our digital economy. I urge my colleagues to see the bigger picture. The vote today is not just about cryptocurrency as we know it. It's about enabling the next generation of innovation enabled by blockchain. This is a good bipartisan product that builds on the years of work from Chairman Hill and Subcommittee Chairman Stile, the Financial Services Committee, and the Ag Committee. I urge my colleagues to support the bill and yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Arkansas reserves. The gentlewoman from California is recognized.
And now yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Foster, who is also the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Financial Institutions.
Gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to the Clarity Act, which claims to bring digital assets under a regulatory umbrella, but fails in two major areas. First, because it has no KYC, know your customer requirements for self-hosted wallets, it allows anonymous trading on DeFi exchanges and the dark web, which means there is no way to prevent wash trading, front running, corruption, ransomware, extortion and kidnapping payoffs, and all the parade of horribles that unregulated crypto has unleashed upon the world. This legislation simply applies a patina of regulation while codifying loopholes that leave large parts of the industry, including the president's own meme coin schemes, completely unregulated. Secondly, the Clarity Act also lacks basic investor protection present in the securities laws. For example, firms are not required to serve the best interest of their investors or to separate critical market functions and many other basic protections. Now, I am not ideologically opposed to crypto, and both of these flaws are fixable, but in Clarity, they have not been fixed, and so I oppose this bill and urge my colleagues to vote no. Yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentlewoman from California reserves. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of the bipartisan Clarity Act, common sense legislation that finally gives digital asset markets the regulatory certainty they need to grow responsibly right here in the United States. For too long, innovators have been stuck in a regulatory gray zone, caught between agencies and overlapping authority, and subject to enforcement instead of clear rules. The uncertainty has driven jobs, investment, and innovation offshore while leaving American consumers exposed. The Clarity Act fixes this. It establishes clear, functional rules for digital assets, drawing a bright line between the SEC and the CFTC, and creating strong enforceable protections for consumers. It ensures that digital assets developers and consumers facing firm play by the rules, disclosing who owns what, segregating customer funds, and avoiding conflicts of interest. It is long overdue, and I commend Chairman for bringing this bill to the floor today.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Arkansas reserves. The gentlewoman from California is recognized.
Thank you very much. I now yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from Massachusetts. She's an unapologetic leader for justice. She's from Massachusetts, Ms. Presley.
The gentlewoman from Massachusetts is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Ranking Member Waters. Mr. Speaker, I rise in vigorous opposition to the Clarity Act. This bill gives a green light to self-enriching crypto schemes where officials at the highest levels of power, including in the White House, have generated hundreds of billions of dollars in personal profit. We need legislation that stops financial abuse, not encourages it, especially during a time when the SEC has dropped enforcement actions against major crypto firms and undermined investor safety. Across our country, millions of working families are battling rising costs. Our elders are targeted by financial scams, and investors are trying to recover from volatile markets. But Republicans are ignoring all of that to prioritize the crypto industry's wish list. To be clear, the people deserve crypto legislation that is fair, transparent, and accountable, not a bill that opens the floodgates to conflicts of interest and weakens investor protections. The Clarity Act fails that test. Republicans need some clarity, all right, moral and legislative. I agree with Ranking Member Waters. This is really the Calamity Act, and I urge my colleagues to oppose this bill.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentlewoman from California has reserved. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself the remainder of my time.
Gentleman is recognized.
We're here today, Mr. Speaker, because of the exceptional work by the House Financial Services Committee over a 5-year period, including under the leadership of then Chair Maxine Waters and our former Chairman Patrick McHenry, gathering feedback from experts, looking at market participants, analyzing the markets, talking to regulators, and that's how we got the Clarity Act on the floor today that is built on the backs of that hard work. This chamber has passed a similar bill in the last Congress with exceedingly strong bipartisan support. Since then, the Clarity Act has only been further refined and strengthened in terms of both legal certainty and consumer protection. This bill, Mr. Speaker, as we've demonstrated over that period of time, would prevent consumer harm like FTX. I support the bill. I urge my colleagues to support the bill, and I yield back the balance of my
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentlewoman from California
Mr.
is
Speaker, may I inquire how much time I have remaining?
The gentlewoman has 2 minutes remaining.
I now yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Kamlager Dov.
Gentlewoman from California is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to the so-called Clarity Act. Let me be clear. I support the growth of digital assets, blockchain innovation, and the promise crypto holds for expanding financial access and economic justice. But this bill is not clarity. It is confusion cloaked in legislation. It picks winners and losers, and the biggest winner is the President of the United States. Why is that office exempt from all the rules? It undermines the SEC's ability to protect consumers and fast-tracks deregulatory loopholes without addressing core issues like transparency, fraud prevention, or equity in access. The SEC doesn't even like this bill. We need comprehensive, thoughtful regulation, not rushed frameworks driven by the people who will gain the most that ignore the voices of everyday investors, builders, and communities left behind. Crypto deserves rules that are smart, fair, and future-facing. The Clarity Act is none of these things, because if it was, Republicans would have had the votes much earlier. I urge my colleagues to vote no. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentlewoman from
Thank
California
you
is
very
recognized.
much. Mr. Chair, I yield myself the balance of the time.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Let me reiterate. A vote for H.R. 3633 is a vote to give Trump the pen to write the rules that would put more money in his family's pockets. A vote for H.R. 3633 is a vote for increased investor harm. A vote for H.R. 3633 is a vote to plant the seeds for the next financial crisis. And a vote for H.R. 3633 is a vote to endanger our national security. That is why I am voting no on H.R. 3633, the Calamity Act, and I urge all members, don't give your vote to Trump to own crypto. Don't give your vote to the vice president. They're the only two elected officials in this bill who can own crypto businesses. I want to see all of the cabinet, the president, the vice president, and all members of Congress unable to own crypto business. I urge all members to vote no, no, no on this bill.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. All time for financial services debate is expired, and the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Thompson, the gentlewoman from Minnesota, Ms. Craig, each will control 15 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Well, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm incredibly proud today to stand before you to share my support for the Clarity Act. This is legislation we've been working on the Agriculture Committee for 7 years. This is an improvement over legislation that fulfilled the very same purpose of what we're addressing today that passed last Congress with over 300 votes, 71 Democrats, and it was a great bipartisan bill. And this is an improvement on that bill. The Clarity Act is about three related ideas: certainty, protection, and innovation. And I'd like to talk about why each of these ideas is important. First, the Clarity Act provides regulatory certainty for all corners of the digital asset ecosystem, including issuers, exchanges, intermediaries, builders, software developers, and most importantly, users of digital assets. This regulatory certainty means that all parts of the ecosystem can engage with digital assets with confidence. It promotes healthy markets by establishing common sense requirements to protect consumers. And those are all built on the existing requirements in the financial services markets. Secondly, the Clarity Act protects good actors from government overreach. By establishing clear rules, we limit the government's ability to subjectively enforce vague statutes. These protections are important to those entities like exchanges, brokers, and dealers who we require to register, but in many cases, they are not more important to entities which Congress is not seeking to register. Third, and most importantly, the Clarity Act supports innovation across the economy, not just the crypto economy. At the House Agriculture Committee, we heard testimony from numerous stakeholders about innovative ways in which developers and entrepreneurs are leveraging blockchain build projects and services using blockchains and digital assets. The certainty and protections provided through the Clarity Act will lead to the development of a new generation of services, tools, and systems. And I'm excited for that future to happen here in the United States of America. Mr. Speaker, Congress has an historic opportunity here today to act. With clarity, we can pass legislation that protects consumers and ensures that the United States remains at the forefront of technological innovation. These are not mutually exclusive goals. They are mutually reinforcing goals. By supporting clarity, we can create a safer, more transparent, and more accessible environment for digital assets. And I urge all of my colleagues to support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today on behalf of nearly 44 million American consumers who have invested in, traded, or used digital assets. That's 1 in 5 Americans. The public interest in these markets is already here, and it's not going away. Under the status quo, there is a gap in regulation for the digital commodity asset market. Our work here today could begin to provide the protections that American investors are accustomed to in traditional financial markets regulated by the CFTC. Regardless of whether Congress acts, these markets will continue to grow. The only question is whether we will begin the hard work of developing regulation or refuse to begin. The Clarity Act would put consumer protections in place for the first time for this industry. Consumers will finally be protected by the same sort of guardrails that protect investors in other sectors of the economy: segregation of customer deposits, consumer disclosures, mandatory record keeping, and examination by regulators. We do not want another FTX. The 2022 collapse of the world's third largest cryptocurrency exchange wiped out an estimated $8 to $10 billion in value, leaving American consumers holding the bag. The Clarity Act would have largely mitigated or avoided this crisis entirely. Former Biden administration CFTC Chairman Russ Benham yesterday testified before the Senate Agriculture Committee. Quote, what he said, inaction will only result in greater risk to our financial markets and investors through lack of market transparency, fraud, market manipulation, corruption, and conflicts of interest, lack of action. Now, let me address the elephant in the room. The first family's involvement with digital assets and personally profiting from them. It's rightfully raised questions of impropriety and alarmed government ethics watchdogs. The first family's personal financial involvement in other sectors, such as telecoms, should ring alarm bells as well, loud and clear as it comes to ethics in our country. There is a time and place for holding the powerful accountable, and that must happen. We should address executive branch corruption independently, and it should apply to all sectors. Today, we must focus on regulation and protections for consumers, because today, 1 in 5 Americans and growing lack those protections, lack any guardrails. It's our job to start putting them in place. Is this bill perfect? No. Can it be improved upon? Absolutely. And I encourage my Senate colleagues to keep working those outstanding issues. This bill deserves our support, and I urge my colleagues to vote yes. Thank you, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlewoman reserves. The gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I was remiss with my opening comments not to thank my agriculture partner, Ranking Member Angie Craig, for her leadership and work together on this issue, but also our Financial Services Chair, French Hill, my good friend Dawn Davis, Whip Emmer, Brian Stile, and so many more. There was just such a strong bipartisan leadership partner team. I now yield to the gentleman from Iowa, a member of the House Agriculture Committee, Mr. Feenstra, for 1.5 minutes.
The gentleman from Iowa is recognized for 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank our Chairman Thompson for bringing this bill forward. It's an amazing bill. I rise today in strong support of the Clarity Act. The increasing adoption of digital assets and the use of blockchain technologies can grow our economy and provide American families with a new opportunity to grow wealth. However, under President Biden, digital assets were attacked, which crushed innovation and created uncertainty for businesses. Fortunately, President Trump is working to make America the crypto capital of world. We want digital and accountability in the marketplace, and fosters innovation by providing a pathway for digital asset firms to operate legally and provide and work with confidence, encouraging digital asset innovation to remain in the U.S. The Clarity unlocks economic growth, global competitiveness, and financial opportunity for all. I urge my colleagues to support this bill and put America first in the race to lead global digital asset
Gentleman's
marketplace
time has expired.
for our country. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Pennsylvania reserves. The gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized.
I yield 3 minutes to my distinguished colleague from the state of North Carolina, Mr. Don Davis, the ranking member of the House Agriculture Subcommittee on Commodity Markets, Digital Assets, and Rural Development.
The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized for 3 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of H.R. 3633, known as the Clarity Act. I'm honored to serve as a co-lead on this legislation alongside Chairman Thompson, Chairman Hill, Ranking Member Craig, Subcommittee Chair Johnson, and so many others who came to the table in good faith to get this done. Let me also take a moment to thank the staff, both the majority and the minority staff. They put so many hours working on this. I know I was up late one night. It was probably midnight. So I really commend the team. And they help work on a very complex issue here that's before us, and to help shape a bipartisan product that reflects the seriousness of the moment. This bill reflects compromise, collaboration, and months of work to craft the regulatory framework that meets the moment. Because the truth is, we can't afford to fall behind. Right now, we are at a crossroads. The digital asset industry is growing, evolving, changing the way people around the world engage with financial markets and emerging technologies. But without a clear regulatory structure in place, we're seeing innovation move overseas, not because our talent isn't here, because the rules aren't here. The Clarity Act provides us with an opportunity then to change that, to lead, to establish thoughtful and balanced guardrails that support innovation, protect consumers, and foster confidence in our markets. You see disclosures, reports. You can't commingle funds. Dealing with so many provisions, anti-fraud, manipulation. But let me be clear. The bill isn't perfect. I've been vocal about that too. I remain concerned about the absence of meaningful conflict of interest provisions dealing with the executive branch. It doesn't matter who occupies the White House. Bottom line, whoever is in the White House, we need clear standards that ensure public trust is never compromised. I also remain concerned about adequate resources for the CFTC. Yes, this bill, and I'm acknowledging, provides more flexibility to deal with hiring, but we also need to see more resources because we're asking the CFTC to take on a major role here in this. Thank you.
The gentleman is recognized for an additional 30 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the 118th Congress, we passed FIT 21 with overwhelming bipartisan support. The Clarity Act builds on this work. Let's pass the Clarity Act and send a strong message to the American people and the world that the United States will lead in building a forward-looking digital economy. I urge my colleagues to support this legislation. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentlewoman from Minnesota has reserved. The gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to the gentleman from Iowa, a member of the Commodity Markets, Digital Assets, and Rural Development Subcommittee, Mr. Nunn, for 1 minute.
The gentleman from Iowa is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Chairman Thompson, as well as Ranking Member Craig. This is truly a bipartisan opportunity to help America deliver as a crypto capital for the entire planet. As a member of both the Ag Committee and the Financial Services Committee, I've been able to see this issue on both sides. Commodities versus securities, CFTC versus the SEC. And in my home state of rural Iowa, we know commodities. Corn, soybeans, hogs. The CFTC does this very well. And in downtown Des Moines and on the main streets of hometowns across Iowa, our banks handle stocks and bonds. Securities, those handled by the SEC. That level of clarity works. But when it comes to digital assets, the lines become blurred, confused, and overly burdensome. That regulatory uncertainty doesn't just cost dollars, it costs jobs, innovation, and America's global leadership. This act, this clarity, is exactly what America needs now to drive towards the future. To ensure the next generation of financial, internet technology, and blockchain success is built in America, that our innovators come from the U.S., and that we have a future going forward. With that, Mr. Chair, I endorse Clarity Act.
Speaker,
General yields. General from Minnesota is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes of to my distinguished colleague from the state of Michigan, Ms. McDonald-Rivet, who serves on the House Agriculture's Subcommittee on Commodity Markets, Digital Assets, and Rural Development.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to voice support for the Clarity Act. While there is still work to be done, it's an important step in providing crucial and clear regulatory framework to the crypto industry. But let's break it down. Today, 1 in 6 U.S. adults, 17% of the population, are invested in or use cryptocurrency. That's 55 million Americans. There are more than $3 trillion US invested in the industry. It is dangerous and irresponsible that a market of this size and scope is currently operating without a clear regulatory framework. For consumers, innovators, and the stability of our nation's economy, the Clarity Act is an important first step forward. It protects consumers and equips assigned agencies with the appropriate authority to provide efficient and thorough oversight over digital asset markets. It also provides desperately needed certainty so that businesses can grow and evolve. I want to be clear, if Clarity had been in place, the FTX market crash that caused their customers to lose $8 billion would not have happened. This bill strengthens our national security by giving regulators the tools they need to track cross-border transactions and stop digital assets from being used to evade sanctions or fund our adversaries. The bill is not perfect, and it does not resolve every issue. Like many of my colleagues, I am deeply concerned about the Trump family's potential conflicts of interest in using crypto to profit from the office of the presidency. That's why I voted for amendments to impose guardrails to stop elected officials from improperly profiting off the trades, and I will continue to push strongly for solutions to this problem. However, we cannot let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We stand at a critical moment where market structure is critical for our consumers, economy, and security, and the Clarity Act moves us meaningfully forward. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields. Gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to expand for a minute on the important protections included in Clarity. The Clarity Act includes strong protections for the developers of software. Section 309 and 409 make it clear that neither the CFTC nor the SEC have the authority to require a person to register just because that person is developing, publishing, or distributing software. This is a critical protection rooted in our First Amendment that should be read expansively by the commissions. The creation of new decentralized finance protocols is also an important development that the Clarity Act seeks to protect. Both the CFTC and the SEC must carefully examine and understand DeFi, which is why we're requiring both commissions to undertake a robust study on the unique benefits and risks of DeFi. Through Clarity, Congress is making an unambiguous statement that DeFi is different and it should be treated differently from the centralized custodial intermediaries. Protecting this emerging technology is an essential purpose of the Clarity Act. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to recognize and yield to the gentleman from Indiana, a member of the Agriculture Committee, a member of the Commodity Markets, Digital Asset, and Rural Development Subcommittee, Mr. Mesmer, for 1 minute.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of the Clarity Act. America's innovative ecosystem has made our nation an investment magnet and development hub, but thus far, our regulatory system has failed the digital assets industry. Under current framework, fraudsters go unpunished, consumers remain unprotected, and the best and brightest minds in the industry have picked up and left for other countries. The Clarity Act finally establishes distinct jurisdictional boundaries between the Securities Exchange Commission and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, while also creating guardrails to incentivize and safeguard investment. The bill not only expands opportunities for Wall Street and Silicon Valley, it also provides great opportunities for Hoosier farmers by opening a new frontier for rural innovators and expanding access to capital in agricultural communities. The digital asset markets are in dire need of regulation, and the Clarity Act is the solution. I look forward to witnessing a new era of economic prosperity and technological advancement this bill will bring to America, and I yield back the remainder of my time.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from Minnesota is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes of my time to the distinguished colleague from the state of Alabama, Mr. Figures.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have listened to many of my colleagues' views on the issues before us today, and I respect them all, and I respect their views. And I don't disagree with many of the points that my colleagues that are in opposition that they're making, especially as it relates to executive conflict of interest concerns. But here's what I know. I know that the United States is lagging behind the rest of the world in regulating this industry. I know that the regulations in the Clarity Act are better than none at all in this industry. And I know that consumers will be better protected the day after this goes into effect than they were the day before. Now, is there more work to be done? Absolutely. And we should do that. But we cannot allow subjective ideas of perfection to override what are objectively steps in the right direction. And so this act is one that I support, Clarity Act. And this is an important first step. And as we move forward, however, we must continue to make the necessary investments so that people have the knowledge and skills to actually understand and participate in a digital economy. And this is also a time to commit ourselves to ensuring that we do not leave underserved and rural communities behind. I represent a district counties that I represent. You cannot participate in or leverage the benefits of a digital economy if you can't get on the internet. That is a fact. And so we must stand up for these communities and bring broadband and internet expansion resources to every community that we possibly can. And so let's keep moving forward. Let's keep making sure that we are bringing everyone along with us. And I urge my colleagues to support this. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yield. Is recognized.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the gentleman that just spoke for his remarks concerning the need for broadband, high-speed broadband. And my pledge as the chairman of the House Agriculture Committee, we're back in September, we've got Farm Bill 2.0, which includes rural economic development and rural broadband. And we have to get that done. Please yield to the gentleman from Georgia, a co-sponsor of the Clarity Act, Mr. Carter, for 1 minute.
Gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to voice my support for the Clarity Act. The Clarity Act is a bill that will make clear laws to help better regulate digital assets and blockchain technology. This bill will ensure that future innovations in the financial world will happen here in the United States and not in foreign countries. We cannot allow our adversaries such as China to control the digital economy. The Clarity Act will help modernize financial laws to make innovation possible and clear up many opaque and sometimes contradictory laws. This bill delivers on President Trump's commitment to make the United States the crypto capital of the world, and I'm proud that we are paving the path towards America. Clarity Act as it cements America as a hub for the world's financial innovation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman from Pennsylvania reserves. Gentlelady from Minnesota is recognized.
Thank you. I yield 2 minutes to my distinguished colleague from the state of New Jersey, Mr. Josh Gottheimer, who serves on the House Financial Services Committee.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Chairwoman Craig, for your excellent leadership. I rise in support of the bipartisan Clarity Act. This bill was made possible through a bipartisan effort that I was very proud to help lead with Chairman Hill and Congressman Stile. And it's an important one because 1/5 of Americans own crypto. My state, New Jersey, proportionally ranks second nationwide in ownership of cryptocurrency. But while cryptocurrency has tremendous economic potential, we desperately need rules of the road to protect consumers and to ensure the success of American entrepreneurs and ensure that America leads the way, not other nations around the world, but that America leads the way in this growing space. The Clarity Act takes common sense steps to make crypto work for everyday users, including measures to stop snake oil salesmen and fraudsters and hucksters, and puts Trump's family's coin under regulation. This legislation supports American-led innovation by encouraging developers and entrepreneurs to build, invest, and create jobs in our country. Finally, this bill gives clarity to the SEC and the CFTC's role in crypto to work together efficiently to crack down on scammers and criminal activity. And after years of uncertainty, it finally says who should oversee what so that people in this space understand the direction it's going in, understand who's going to oversee what, and that consumers can be protected. I can't say that enough. Do you want this to be the Wild West and continue to be with uncertainty, or do we want to have clear rules of the road to protect consumers? Do we want to do something or nothing? Is it perfect, as you've heard today? No, it's not perfect, but few pieces of legislation we bring here are. The question is, will it do good? Will it make sure that we look after people who are involved in this space? Will it ensure that America succeeds and grows? That's the question. And to do nothing means that we will ensure that Trump's coin has no oversight. Why would we want that? We will ensure that no consumer is protected if we do nothing. We want to protect American consumers. That's our job. This legislation does that. I urge my colleagues to support this critical, common sense, bipartisan legislation. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, may I require how much time I have remaining?
Gentleman has 5.5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker,
Gentlewoman from Minnesota actually has 2. 2.5.
Mr. Speaker,
We'll give her another
pleased to yield to the gentleman from Tennessee, the Vice Chair of the Commodity Markets, Digital Assets, and Rural Development Subcommittee, also a member of the House Financial Services Committee, a very busy man, Mr. Rose, for 1 minute.
The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Thompson. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the Clarity Act, which provides long overdue updates aimed at protecting the future of digital assets, encouraging growth, and protecting American consumers. The days of stifling this emerging industry through litigation and rogue rulemaking must end. The Securities and Exchange Commission under former Chair Gary Gensler went far outside the agency's statutory mandate in many ways, especially with cryptocurrencies. The Clarity Act will strengthen transparency and accountability for consumers. It will require developers to provide accurate disclosures with details about the asset project's operation, ownership, and structure. It requires brokers and dealers to disclose important information to investors, to hold their own funds separate from their customers' funds, and to report any conflicts of interest. This bill ensures Americans know where they're putting their money, and it gets government out of the way of growth and innovation. Let's pass the Clarity Act for the good of this country. I yield back.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady from Minnesota is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have no other speakers at the moment, and I continue to reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentleman Minnesota or Pennsylvania is recognized.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I yield to the gentleman from South Dakota, the chairman of the Commodity Markets, Digital Assets, and Rural Development Subcommittee, Mr. Johnson, for 3 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, it's been such an honor to work with GT, French, Angie, Don, Brian, and so many others on something that's real. It's sometimes hard to separate the real from the fake in this town. That's certainly true for digital assets. NFTs, meme coins, these generate tremendous attention, and they can pull our gaze away from what really matters. Here's what matters. Blockchain technology, Web3, will transform every single industry in the same way that the internet has transformed every single industry over the last 30 years. And that transformation will happen much faster than people realize. If we can keep government from continuing to screw this up. This is not about buying bubble gum with Bitcoin. This is about blockchain innovation happening here rather than overseas, about more liquid capital markets, about small businesses creating new services and products, about removing friction from transactions for every single American, and about protecting consumers so the debacles like the FTX meltdown never happen again. We tend to overstate the impact of what we do in this town. Everything is historic, even when it's not. But this is different. This is huge. Before I came to Congress, I was in the broadband industry, and the 1996 Telecom Act provided the regulatory certainty needed to launch the internet era. That was a watershed victory for this country, and my friends, we are here again. The regulatory certainty provided by this incredible bipartisan work product will
I also want to thank, again, my agriculture partner, Ranking Member Angie Craig with the Agriculture Committee, and Don Davis, and our leadership, and all those who are have the foresight to see that this is about the future. Well, it's about today, because there's companies that are struggling with this. But it's about the more importantly the future of both the financial sector and the technological sector. And so a vote for clarity is a vote for America's future and America's leadership. And with that, I urge all my colleagues to vote yes on clarity. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to thank the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Chairman G.T. Thompson, and his team for working on this consumer protection legislation in a bipartisan manner. I believe bipartisan legislation is always preferable to partisan legislation. It's stronger, it's harder to undo when it has broad support and leadership changes. It's why I heard my chairman talk about the Farm Bill. I regret that it wasn't a bipartisan path through reconciliation for Farm Bill provisions, but I am optimistic that we can work together in many other areas. While I wait to see what the gentleman's got in store for us for farm programs left behind, I too agree that rural development is incredibly important, Mr. Speaker. I hope that the bipartisanship shown through the Clarity Act process can act as a reminder that we accomplish more and we go further when we work together. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the remainder of my time.
Gentlelady yields. All time for debate on the bill has expired. The chair understands that the amendment number 1 will not be offered. Pursuant to the rule, previous question is ordered on the bill as amended. Question is on engrossment and the third reading on the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to provide for a system of regulation of the offer and sale of digital commodities by the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and for other purposes.
Question is on the passage of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The bill is passed.
Mr. Speaker, I request the yeas and nays.
Gentlelady requests the yeas and nays. They are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. Sufficient number having arisen. Yeas and nays are ordered pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20. Further proceedings of this question will be postponed. For what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, good morning. Pursuant to House Resolution 580, I call up the bill S1582 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
Clerk will report the title.
Senate 1582, an act to provide for the regulation of payment stablecoins and for other purposes.
Pursuant to House Resolution 580, the bill is considered read. The bill shall be debatable for 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Financial Services or their respective designees. The gentleman from Arkansas and the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Waters, each will control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on this bill.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong support of the Senate Genius Act. And I thank my colleague and longtime friend, Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, for his leadership in ushering this bipartisan bill through the United States Senate. Around the world, payment systems are undergoing an evolution. New technologies are modernizing legacy infrastructure and unlocking innovative solutions to improve efficiency, reduce costs, and expand access to financial services. Members of this House Financial Services Committee have long recognized the promise of payment stablecoins and have worked since 2022 to establish a legislative framework. Last Congress, under the leadership of former Chairman Patrick McHenry of North Carolina, the committee passed the Clarity for Payment Stablecoins Act of 2023. This bill provided for bank and non-bank pathways for issuers to obtain regulatory approval, preserve state-level oversight, and set standards for reserve composition, audits, and sound risk management. When the 119th Congress started in January, we picked up this effort. In close coordination with the Senate Banking Committee and our base legislation and our legislative work over the past 2 years has laid that foundation for the progress made in both the House and the Senate. Today, we have an opportunity to send stablecoin legislation to President Trump's desk. This is a multi-Congress priority item, and it ensures American competitiveness, strong guardrails for our consumers. We should not, Mr. Speaker, squander that opportunity. This priority has been agreed to by both President Biden with his executive order and President Trump in his executive order 14178. Through multiple versions of stablecoin legislation, the House and Senate have shared ideas and crafted workable approaches, and our joint efforts before us helped enhance the legislation on the floor this morning. I want to recognize the hard work of my friends in the Senate to get the core fundamentals of what payment stablecoin legislation demand. I also want to recognize the diligence and thoughtful work of my colleagues here in the House, including the chairman of our Digital Assets, Financial Technology, and Artificial Subcommittee, Brian Stile, who championed and worked through our committee through markup in successfully designing, writing, and passing in committee the STABLE Act. I thank my House colleagues for their principled approach to key policies that guided and distinguished our effort, particularly around state regime oversight, the reserve composition, the anti-money laundering and territorial integrity issues around stablecoins, and finally, the corporate structure of issuers. Furthermore, it's my firmly held belief that only by enacting payment stablecoin legislation and, Mr. Speaker, I repeat, and comprehensive market structure reform in this Congress, like we just debated a few minutes ago, the Clarity Act, only by passing both will this Congress fully usher in the era of digital finance and ensure that consumers are protected whenever they engage with digital assets. I urge all my colleagues to join me in supporting this bill and sending it forward to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue for President Trump to sign into law, and I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady from California is recognized.
I yield myself such time as I may consume. 2 weeks ago, Republicans boasted about how they would provide billionaires with tax cuts they don't need by stripping health care from 17 million Americans, shuttering hospitals across the country, and starving 12 million families, including millions of children. These billionaires are the same individuals who proudly gave millions of dollars to President Trump's campaign, literally bought votes during the last election, and even sponsored Stalinist military parades to celebrate the president's birthday. No one should be surprised that these same Republicans' next order of business is to validate, legitimize, and endorse the Trump family's corruption and efforts to sell the White House to the highest bidder. SD 1582, the so-called Genius Act, establishes a woefully deficient federal framework for dollar-denominated payment stablecoins. In the United States, stablecoins are a form of digitized private money. Unlike other types of crypto, these coins claim to always maintain their value, often one coin for $1. Nevertheless, that promise of stability is precisely what causes stablecoins to be the subject to bank-like runs where the public rushes to sell their stablecoins at the first whiff of instability, making a bit of bad news into a full-blown financial crisis. It was for this reason that when I was chairwoman of the committee, I saw